Okay, so that's the management of Lupin talking about Spiriva Generic. Bino Pathiparampil, who is the Director Research InCreed Capital, joins in to discuss this now. Bino, hi. Thanks very much for taking the time out. Well, you've looked at Lupin for a long time. How important is Spiriva Generic for them and the possible delay that they might be seeing now?
Hi. So Spiriva was one of the products which everybody in the market was looking quite forward to from Lupin's portfolio. Especially given that of late the company's margins have been a bit below what market has been expecting. Everybody was hoping that Spiriva would come soon and the company would get back to a comfortable profitability level. So now the CRL is pushing that a bit back by probably 6 months. So hopefully it should come again in FY24, and hopefully the company will get back to a reasonable level of profitability.
Okay, so if this launch doesn't take place in Q4, the management was very confident that it would come through. But if it doesn't, then what are you penciling in terms of growth, particularly for this portfolio and overall for the business?
So this particular drug, generic Spiriva, is probably around 20% of the EPS estimates for FY24 for the company. So if that doesn't come through, there is a risk of 20% downside to the profit estimates. But even if you remove that, still there should be a pretty good growth in earnings numbers that we are projecting for next year, because last year and this year are pretty low margin years for Lupin. And the market is expecting that the margins, even in the absence of Spiriva, should rebound back to historic levels of 15–16%. So even in the absence of Spiriva, what the market is pricing in is a pretty substantial 40–50% jump in Lupin's profits in FY24 over FY23.
Okay. The reason I ask is because the stock has had a big fall, right? I mean, it's down, almost 35% from the 52-week high of almost 1,000 rupees. You think there's any trigger that can lead to the stock seeing a recovery from here?
So the stock has fallen because of the lower profitability than what the market was expecting at that point in time. Even as late as Q1 of FY23, the company's reported margins at the EBITDA level was at a single-digit level. Everybody is expecting, and the management has also guided to a significant margin recovery by end of this year and in FY24. So as the company starts reporting double-digit EBITDA margins and margins that are in the high teens, which is what the company's peers are mostly doing, I see the stock rebounding back to those levels.
Okay. In terms of your preference within the entire pharmaceutical space, Bino, what would it be? Would you probably look at companies which are not so event-linked, say within the US generic pharma space, and which ones would they be?
So in general, I'm pretty positive on the US market as we stand today, because we have gone through an era of very high price erosion, which is mostly behind us in my view. The pricing scenario in the US should start improving next quarter onwards. So to that extent, I would look at companies gaining from the US market. Within the US market, it's very difficult to separate out events. US market or the US business by nature is very event-driven. So that kind of volatility has to be built into expectations. Within that, at the current stock levels, I would prefer buying Zydus Life Science and Sun Pharma. Those are my topics.
Sorry, which one did you say? Sun Pharma and?
Zydus Life Science.
Zydus. Okay. All right. But just coming back to Lupin itself, you did mention about the way forward in terms of the stock price. But I wanted to also ask you about the other issues that Lupin has had, right? I mean, they were talking about how There is this price erosion issue in the US which still continues, so they're not very confident about a recovery over there. Do you think these are some things that could keep a lid on the stock in the near term, despite that 11-12% gain that we've seen in the last 3 months?
So, like I said, overall at a macro level, I expect the pricing scenario in the US generics market to improve substantially over the next 6 to 9 months. And there is no reason why Lupin in particular shouldn't benefit from that. In addition to that, the management has highlighted a lot of cost control measures they are doing to make a step jump in profitability. So all this should result in margins getting back to the historic levels of mid to high teens is what I expect and what is built into the stock price as well.
Bino, yesterday we did discuss, the strengths that MNC pharma companies have in India with regards to the brands, etc. But at the same time, they're not available for cheap valuations. What are your thoughts on the MNC pharma space in particular in India?
It is very difficult to take a call on that space altogether because the MNC pharma, the performance of the company, performance of the stock depends on key products, key patented products that those companies have. So there are select companies which have products coming into the Indian market from the patent portfolio. They set to see growth for a few years. But then as those products mature, their growth may come off. So at a basket level, it's probably very difficult to take a call. One need to go individually into each company, and within that, individually need to analyze the product performance.
So what would your...
in general, in general, the new product patent regime that India has is favorable for the MNC companies.
So what would your top picks in that space be? Since you're talking individual companies, etc.
Sorry, since I don't cover any stocks from that area, okay. I won't be able to make that comment.
Okay, Bino, just a quick last question, and just coming back to Lupin, I wanted to understand where Lupin stands in terms of a preference amongst the basket of stocks that you track.
So Lupin is probably in the middle level. I have a hold rating on Lupin. I believe that once the company starts delivering on profitability, as the EBITDA margins start inching up, I will look forward to a better upside on the stock price.
Okay, we leave it at that. Bino, thanks a lot for joining us and giving us an update on the entire pharmaceutical space. Let's slip into a quick break. The market is still inching higher, Nifty still up a century. Let's get Jay Thakkar of Marwadi Share Broking on the other side of the break to give in some trading strategies. Do stay tuned in.